So you're working on a painting and you really like where it's going. But then all of a sudden you start to doubt yourself and you start wondering if you should really stop here or not. And then you think, maybe if I just try to correct this one small area. But then one thing leads to another and you end up overworking your whole painting. All right, then. So last week we talked about the clarity gap. So learning to see what's really happening in your painting. But once you can see that clearly, a new challenge kind of shows up. And that is knowing when your painting is actually finished, right? So until you learn when to stop, you're going to keep overworking your paintings and underdoing your best work because you don't trust yourself enough to walk away. But once you have a process for knowing when it's done, everything kind of changes. You start to trust your own judgment and you feel a lot more confident in yourself. So, this used to be the hardest part for me. I chase something perfect in my head, like a painting that I thought was supposed to look a certain way. And then I would end up painting over the best parts without even realizing it. But learning the visual language of art changed all that for me. And today I want to show you my process. And that leads me to the stopping problem. So here's what happens: you're working, you like what you see, but you're not sure if it's done or not. So, how do you know when to stop or to keep going? There are always two fears in our heads. One says it's not finished, it needs more. And then the other one says, if I touch it, I'll probably ruin it. When I teach, most of the artists that I work with end up overworking their paintings because of perfectionism. So maybe you know that feeling. You're never satisfied, you're always wanting to keep going. And you know what? That's because we want our art to be something that we absolutely love. We try so hard to get there that we can't finish anything because it has to be perfect first. But chasing that imagined perfection just makes you end up painting over the best parts, the most authentic parts, the parts that make your work unique and powerful. So that's why I want to show you my process for knowing when to stop. Not just evaluation, but recognizing when the most authentic painting has emerged and having the discipline to walk away. So let's talk about the stopping process. So, step one here is to get yourself out of that just one more thing trap. So, what happened with me was that I suddenly realized that I had to do something, right? So, I didn't always know what that was, but over time, I developed a process. And I started using that process to check in with myself. So instead of listening to the voice in my head, I started using something that I like to call the 3 question test. So I ask myself 3 questions. The first one is, what's working in this painting? So in this painting, I really like the green on the top left side. I also like the yellow and that dark purple on the bottom. I also like those 2 turquoise marks. And on the other side, I like the bluish green on the top. I love the turquoise below it. I also love the purple and the red there. And I'm loving the combination between the 3, the turquoise, the purple, and that red. So the second question I ask myself is, what's not working? That's not always easy to see. So sometimes you just need to really sit and look. And other times it's really easy. So for this painting, I'm not in love with the turquoise marks on the left side that are underneath the yellow. And I'm not really happy with the turquoise at the bottom there, nor the pink that I just brought in. So the third and last question I ask myself is, what's missing? So if I can name something specific, it will make it easier for me. Like sometimes it's a focal point. Other times it could be more variety or better balance. So it could be something different every time. That depends on the painting. So for this painting, I think what's missing is something to make it whole. I feel like all the elements in this painting are kind of living their own life so far. So there are 2 important things about knowing what's missing. One is, if you don't know what's missing, you can't fix it. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that If you can't name what's missing, the only reason that you're going to want to keep going is to chase that imagined ideal. So that should be a signal for you to stop because the goal isn't perfection, the goal is authenticity. The painting that's trying to emerge is part of you. It's not something that you have in your head, it's something that you're expressing. Instead of aiming for perfection in your art, it's way better to aim for perfecting your journey. So, if you kind of relate to this, I want you to know that you're not alone because I don't think I've met a single artist who hasn't struggled with this, me included. So just know that it's not about perfection, it's about having a process, something that you can repeat. So the awesome thing is that once you find that thing that's missing, you can actually do something about it. Like I'm doing with this area here. I felt like everything was just the same. So bringing in some line there is helping me change that area up a bit, making it different from the other areas. So now look, before that spot was dead space. Now my eye goes there. That's the difference between adding what's truly needed and chasing perfection. Once I've made that specific change, I resist the urge to keep going for it just for the sake of it. But sometimes, even after asking myself those three questions, I'm still too close. So, step three is to give it time. So, when you're still too close, it's hard to see things clearly. So, I like to step back. I might take a photo of the painting, walk away, have a cup of tea, whatever. And sometimes I'll even leave it overnight. Or if worse comes to worse, I'll leave it there for weeks because sometimes it just helps to come back to it with fresh new eyes. So, to finish a painting with confidence, just resist the just one more thing, ask the three questions, give it time, and trust your process. Helping you move from frustration to clarity by mastering the visual language of art. That's what this process is about. Trusting yourself and finishing with confidence. But here's the thing, everything that I've showed you today only works if you mastered the foundation from last week's video. Knowing when to stop only helps if you can actually see what's happening with your painting. So if you haven't watched the video from last week about the clarity gap, start there. I'll show you exactly how to look at your work objectively instead of feeling your way through it. That's the foundation for everything. Just click the video in the end screen if you want to watch it. And before you go, I want you to know that I have a free checklist with more questions that you can ask that will help you know when to stop. You'll find the link to that in the description. It's the tool that I wish that I had years ago. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos where I break down more of the visual language of art. Let me know in the comments what part of finishing painting trips you up the most. I read every single comment, guys. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye.